Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reganelite's Watch Along episode 80. We are 20 episodes of this series away from 100 of them. On this live stream in particular, here we cover clips, different clips around certain topics, and give my appropriate response to them, and you guys can share your views on different. We're going to be covering a wide range. We're going to be looking at a possible Labour plot to oust Starmer. We're going to be looking at more on the BBC. We're going to be talking about the files that won't go away in Mr. Epstein. We might touch on Prime Minister's questions and perhaps a couple more extras after here. What we have here. Lots of clips to look at tonight, but this live stream, just for those who are watching it back, this is scheduled on the 12th of November 2025 at 8 p.m. UK time, and we are dual streaming live on youtube.com/Reganelite and on twitch.tv/Reganelite1. So if you're on Twitch, please feel free to say hello, hit that follow button, and hit the bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I go live again on that platform. And for those who are on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, share this across social media, and also you hit the bell notification icon on there. You'll be notified of when I go live on the platform as well, just for reference. So let's see who we got in the chat. We've got a lovely bunch of people I see here in the chat. Scott Hayes, good evening to you. Hope you are doing well. And Mr. E, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well as well. Jao, one of our moderators there. Good to see you, Jao. Hope you are doing well. Guys, make sure you do check out Jao's YouTube channel. He has his own YouTube channel. Discusses a variety of topics as well. So give him a chance. He's still getting going, but definitely worth checking out, guys, if you wouldn't mind on my behalf. Indie Duck, Melly, good to see you there as well. Hope you are doing well. Bringing the ducks to the conversation tonight, indeed. And nobody really chatting too much on Twitch at the moment. Right, let's go straight into the Labour plot. And so this morning, West Streeting was talking a lot to the media. Quite a lot to the media here. And it's not how, like, the thing is, I've got quite a few clips, but I think this clip is probably the best one to start with, to go with it. So, this morning here, Ridge and Frost here, West Streeting denies plotting to oust the Prime Minister when questioned by Sophie Ridge-Guy. But I think Sophie makes some very valid points here. Yes, this is 3 minutes and 56 long, but I do think some of the points that she makes in this all really does make sense here. And the question is, I'm kind of like 50-50 on whether he's actually doing this or not. But I generally want to hear your thoughts, guys, in the comments about this. Like, is West Streeting actually plotting to oust Keir Starmer? That's a good question. Because here's the other thing as well. His seat is not a safe one. And we know it's not a safe one because of the last general election. He only held on to it by the skin of his teeth. So he doesn't even have a safe seat. So it's entirely possible he could lose his seat in the future as well.
But the point is, these sorts of Westminster bubble process stories, boys getting carried away, these are things that distract from our ability to get across the message of the change we're making, the difference we're making on things that voters actually care about.
There's a few specific allegations about you that have been put out in the last 24 hours. I want to put them to you directly. Firstly, there's the Times. Downing Street figures suspect that Streeting could demand the Prime Minister's resignation in the days after the budget. Are you going to rule that out?
Yes. And
that's quite powerful for the Times to be putting out a headline like that there. And the thing is, it's not like West Streeting is going to sue the Times for misleading or anything like that. Like, he's saying it here. He's saying this isn't like saying here yes, but like if I'm a staunch defender of Starmer, or if I wanted to act like a staunch defender of Starmer, I would say yes. And if the Times don't retract that headline, I'm going to sue them. Like, that's what I would say. Like, I would put pressure on the media saying, well, how dare you make up these false things about me? It's not going that far.
And nor did I shoot JFK. I don't know where Lord Lucan is. Had nothing to do with Shergar. And I do think that the US did manage to do the moon landings. I don't think they were faked, certainly not by me.
I mean, I'm glad that he finds it all a bit funny, but, you know, considering Keir Starmer's really starting to become quite untenable, and I do wonder whether, you know, the budget is the budget when he's going to make the move there.
What about after the local elections next year? Is that a point when, if you do badly, if you lose in Wales, that it could be time for a change at the top?
Well, I'm not.
Okay, like, here's the thing. Like, I know journalists, I know you've got to ask these questions, but you can't. But you know, it's not like Zach Polanski, who's going to be a bit more open and honest about things. You're going to get robotic answers. They're not going to say like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna overthrow. Yes, Sophie Rich, I'm going to overthrow the Prime Minister as soon as the local elections and we get trounced at them. Yeah, I'm definitely I'm definitely gonna overthrow the Prime Minister. I am definitely going to overthrow the Prime Minister as soon as the time is right. Like, honestly.
Not planning for us to do badly. In Scotland, we've got a dynamic leader.
Can you rule it out? Can you rule it out demanding the Prime Minister's resignation?
I'm not going in to demand the Prime Minister's resignation. I support the Prime Minister. I have done since he was elected leader of the Labour Party. I didn't vote for him in the leadership election, but I did support him from the moment he was elected. And I supported him all the way through at points when he did things that no one thought was possible. They didn't think he could turn around the Labour Party. He did. They didn't think he could win a general election. He did. People are now questioning whether he can change the country. He will.
Can I tell you what I think? I think that this was all briefed overnight, specifically so that you could say those things today on the morning round, right? Everyone knows that you're doing the morning round. You're taking questions from people like me. They're worried about the budget. They know how bad it's going to be. They know that, in all likelihood, it looks like the manifesto is going to be broken. They want a public declaration of loyalty from the person who is seen as the most likely person to succeed the Prime Minister.
Well, I suppose the...
I mean, it's a very good picture, and I like Sophie Ridge kind of put that on the spot there to him, painting that picture to viewers that this is definitely happening, and that they're trying to kind of put Wes Streeting in a position. But here's the thing, like, Wes Streeting publicly is not going to denounce the Prime Minister unless he knows he can definitely do it. Unless he knows he can definitely do it, if he's in a position to do it. He's not going to do it publicly right now. Jow says they're smelling blood on the water like the sharks Reganelite. They are testing the waters to see how far they can go. Stephen Banker says, am I on the wrong thing? Talking about something else there. Wes Streeting is a creep. Yeah, Wes Streeting is definitely a creep. Wes Streeting will be more dangerous and incompetent as Starmer. He's invictive and snidey. The thing is that if he, let's just say hypothetically, he does oust Keir Starmer, becomes Prime Minister, everyone will demand a general election. And the thing is, he will never be taken seriously as a Prime Minister unless he actually calls a general election. Now, would he do that? No. Why would he not do that? Well, because the polls are not in his favour in any way, shape, or form. But polls could swing differently if the budget goes badly, or they hang on until the local elections and it goes badly. They oust Starmer, they do a leadership contest, he comes in, and he promises change, yada, 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 X, Y, and Z, and he says, to prove I'm going to be the leader, I'm going to let the public decide and call a general election. I think that would actually be a very fascinating thing to do, and I think it'd be incredibly bold for him to do that. But I don't think that's what he would do. But if he wanted to show the British public that I can be Prime Minister, he should win them over in a general election, not by ousting the Prime Minister.
The tragedy is everything I've just said about Keir's record, about confounding his critics, are things that I have said regularly and repeatedly whenever I've been asked questions about how he's doing or how the government's doing.
So you haven't had
So the only thing that this has achieved is distracting me from talking about the fact that when the Prime Minister and I announced we were going to abolish NHS England, reduce the size of my department, the NHS, by 50%,
you will talk about
and cut through layers of management bureaucracy, lots of people said, well, this isn't going to happen. Today I'm setting out how we're going to do that. But, of course, we're going to spend most of the time, and I'm grateful you are actually going to come on to what I came to talk about, but we will now spend more time on what is a totally irrelevant and untrue process story, but also a self-defeating one because it's come from Downing Street.
Have you had any conversations with anyone about getting rid of Keir Starmer?
No, and I tell you,
Like, again, like, I know she's got to ask these questions, but you know what the answer is going to be before he even says it on a question like that. This is the standard, what the F? Yeah, I know, this is the standard. This is the standard, yeah, you know. But don't worry, Nigel Farage is going to lower the bar, Mr. E.
what I think this does show is that when Lucy Powell stood to be deputy leader of the Labour Party and said there needed to be a culture change in how we lead and how the party is managed, I think she has been vindicated.
Is it rotten? Do you think there's a rotten culture?
No, I wouldn't go that. No, and I'm not going to give whoever's behind this any more kind of oxygen and credit.
He clearly knows that what they are doing, this government and this cabinet, what they are doing is not appealing to the British public. It's not working. The reality is it's not working. It just feels like that when we finally get to the budget, like, I just don't see a way of this budget benefiting anyone. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, I'm looking at the date now. What is it? It's the 12th of this. I just feel like that there is less than roughly 2 weeks from now. We're going to have, in 2 weeks from now, we're going to have the budget, and I just feel like death's coming at Keir Starmer, because the general gist is that Labour are doing some good policies and whatnot. The problem is a lot of the changes, the right changes that they're doing, some of the right changes they're doing, I want to make that very clear, take time to implement. The problem is that they are introducing policies as well, which weren't in the manifesto, and also without consulting the very people that they were affecting. The one policy, I think, out of everything that Labour have done, more than anything, which has angered so much of the public, has been the disability entitlements, to cut that or change that to make it more difficult. I feel like that is the worst thing they've done, because, as I've said in the past, what angered me the most about it wasn't just the fact that they were going to make it more difficult for people to apply for entitlements, as if it's not hard enough already. But the fact of the matter is that it's not just that it's already hard enough, but the fact of the matter is you didn't even consult or talk to organisations and bodies that represent those people. No consultation whatsoever. And when you talk about Labour supposed to be a government of the people, or portraying themselves as some kind of party for the people, or specifically the working class people, if you're not even going to consult the very people you're affecting your policies around, you have no right to be in government. Like, you've got to consult the very people that you're affecting, and they didn't even do that with this policy. And it's Morgan McSweeney all over. He's the one that needs to go. What I generally hope, and I generally mean this, if Keir Starmer does go, I hope Morgan McSweeney goes too. If Morgan McSweeney doesn't go, nothing will change with this Labour government. Nothing will change.
I do think that going out and calling your Labour MPs feral is not very helpful. I do think that trying to kneecap one of your own team when they are out, not just making the case for the government, but actually delivering the change that we promised, I think that is also self-defeating and self-destructive behaviour. I also think whoever did this doesn't speak for the Prime Minister. I speak for the Prime Minister. That's why I was asked to come on this morning to talk about the reform agenda in the NHS. It's why I was with the Prime Minister on Monday evening with a small group of colleagues looking seriously at how we meet our ambitious goal of halving violence against women and girls in this country. Those are the things the Prime Minister's focused on. I think he will be horrified reading the front pages this morning. I don't think this is how he conducts himself, and I think people should follow the example set by their boss. But the point...
Yeah, the main thing in this conversation I found fascinating was what Sophie was saying, basically saying that this is deliberate by Number 10 to put him out there. I do wonder how much of that is generally true. I thought this was quite interesting as well here. So West Street in defence Morgan McSweeney when asked if he should be sacked. The one thing I would say for Morgan McSweeney is that there wouldn't be a Labour government without him. So he's not yeah.
Do you think Morgan McSweeney is responsible for the toxic culture in Number 10? And do you think he should be fired for briefing against you?
I am not going to add to the toxic culture by contributing to the toxic culture and going after individuals. I don't think that is a constructive or positive thing to do. And one thing I would say for Morgan McSweeney is there wouldn't be a Labour government without him.
Yes, I do give... Yes, to a certain extent, Morgan McSweeney did help orchestrate their campaign. But at the same time, it's also important to stress as well, is that the Conservatives in government shot themselves in the foot as well. They shot themselves in the foot. And that's also another thing as well. I wonder if he's just saying that to save face. Again, I do think Labour would change dramatically if they removed Morgan McSweeney. But the other thing as well about Morgan McSweeney is that we know that he's there as a Rupert Murdoch puppet in order to make sure that he keeps the government in line. And if you remove a puppet of Rupert Murdoch, he's not going to be a very happy bunny. I mean, honestly, I would not want any kind of sway whatsoever from Rupert Murdoch. But I wonder if they got to West Streeting, I would be surprised if he's already in it, because we know that he's in it with some private health insurers, that's for sure, which he has denied. I thought this was quite an interesting one here. It's an old one here, but if you listen to it, so the headline says, "Remember West Streeting saying what Jeremy Corbyn does is of no concern to me whatsoever. He won't be in Parliament after the next general election." Just, it's just a constant, like, I just found this one quite fascinating. I don't know if this really plays into the plot, but I'm going to play it anyway.
Viewers will remember Jeremy Corbyn is not sitting as a Labour MP at the moment, but he is still a member of the Labour Party. Do you think accepting a donation like that, supporting other socialist candidates, is acceptable for a member of the Labour Party?
No, I don't think it is. Although, frankly, what Jeremy Corbyn does is no concern to me whatsoever any longer. He won't be a Labour candidate at the next general election. He won't be in Parliament after the next general election. And we've turned the page on that total failure in our history.
But a lot of people in your party still do care about him. Should he be expelled from the party if he is working with this other campaigning group?
It would be for the Labour Party's disciplinary process to decide whether or not he's broken any rules. But the fact is, when Keir Starmer said he was going to change the Labour Party, he was serious and meant it. And the Labour Party is in a much better position now than we were in 2019, because we have understood why the public rejected us in such huge numbers. We've changed the Labour Party so we can be in a position to change our country. And I hope that when the general election comes later this year, that voters give change a chance and choose change by voting Labour.
Yeah, and how's that done? How are we doing now, right? Yeah, I'm still sceptical. I'm very sceptical. This was an interesting one as well on the Labour plots here as well. Let me have a look, see what you guys are saying. Last election, I could read and understand each and every party's detailed plans for the economy, social, etc. Party's agenda here. It's like a guide to their actions in government, with figures, facts, and how they would give the money and to do, for example, says Jow. Stephen Banker says the law needs to be stricter and those breaking them have a swift and appropriate punishment. Indeed. This is England's problem. I don't say British politicians because it taints Scottish and Welsh politicians. Yeah, that's understandable, Stephen Banker. So here, West Streeting calls for Number 10 staff briefing against him to be sacked. The Health Secretary has denied that he is plotting a leadership coup, telling Radio 4 today that these staff do not align with Starmer's model or any type of leadership here.
There are people around the Prime Minister who do not follow his model and style of leadership. I can tell you, without having even spoken to the Prime Minister, what he thinks of briefing, what his reaction will be to the front pages and the broadcast bulletins overnight. The words I'm sure he would use are not suitable for a family show like this.
Right, but given they're there in his operation and he is the Prime Minister, should he sack those people, do you think?
Yes, but, he's got to find them first. And I wouldn't expect him to waste loads of time on this. I just think, and this interview is in many ways a reflection of the problem. We're spending way too much time talking about what is ultimately Westminster bubble nonsense and trivia.
Again, it's not trivia, because if it's not trivia, then why are so many people coming out about it? Like, I do think there is something to this. I don't think it's just the Times and others mentioning this. I do think there's something to this. Maybe some people will disagree, but I do think there is something to this. That is for I feel. I call BS weasel streeting. Yeah, I'm going to be like absolutely real with you guys. I do not want West Streeting as Prime Minister in any way, shape or form. If I'm honest, I would like somebody a bit more on the left in Labour, what's left of any kind of left leaning in Labour. But I don't think we're going to get that. I think we're going to end up with somebody that probably is not in the interest of us. I think Zach Polanski was very careful not to say that even though he won't work with Keir Starmer, he might work with a future Labour leader. And again, it depends who that person is going to be. If that person is going to be West Streeting, would Zach Polanski rule out working alongside West Streeting? I don't know. Scott, that's the danger of using president and past laws as a base of law instead of a constitution like the rest of Europe. I remember when politicians never were provided with questions in order to prepare for a week and we can answer to waste time in indifferences, says Mr. E. Yeah. Good evening, Billy Kershaw. I hope you are doing well. England, Wales, and none Scotland. My friend Alison Keir says there. Good to see you there, Alison. Yeah. Constitutional law is certain and change to adopt to the reality of the times. Anglo-Saxon law changes on whims and ideas, says Jal there. Interesting. So we'll see, obviously, if this becomes more. We may even discuss this tomorrow on the round table, all the things depends as well, because, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss the BBC. I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss the BBC and this possibly as well. There's plenty to discuss, that is for sure. Speaking of the BBC, guys, I thought this one here. So the BBC is still under fire right now, and I think, I know that there's some people in my chat who are really much against the BBC, who don't like it because of how it treats the people of Scotland in terms of its coverage, and I understand that from a news and politics perspective. But I think as an institution, it needs to be protected and it needs to be defended. And my argument for people who say the BBC should go completely altogether, and I'm going to say, well, what do you replace it with? Because you ain't going to get something better than the BBC. That's what I say. I say to people who want to see the complete abolishment of the BBC, that what replaces it, what fills its void, will not be something that you will want. And while I understand how people feel about sometimes the news and politics that comes out of it, and I agree to it, and I agree that it's not always gets it right and makes mistakes. But if you take the news and politics out of it, it does still a lot of very good programs in terms of entertainment and whatnot. And I will come on to the talk about reforms and whatnot, because the biggest issue that I have, and I'm sure everybody has with the BBC, I think more than sometimes the news and politics, is the license fee. Paying for a license fee for something that you don't even watch, excuse me, is a big problem. And I do have a problem with that. And Mr. Skiams, good to see you there. I hope you are doing well. Yeah, we do need to scrap the license fee. That definitely needs to change there. But let's listen here from a former BBC chairman, Lord Patton here, Conservative peer here. And I thought what he said here was very fascinating.
What do you think of the criticism, though, that there are issues at the BBC, and that it has a worldview that reasonably represents urban graduates who potentially are the dominant staff in news at the BBC, and that it doesn't connect with everybody in the country and doesn't represent views of half the people in the nation?
Well, I don't know what the answer should be to that observation. Perhaps the BBC should refuse to take anybody who's been to a university. I mean, it's completely barking. And when you think about the extent to which the BBC is trusted overall, when you think how important it is to our democracy in this country to have an independent, valued source of news, which by and large tries all the time to get things right, it does make mistakes from time to time.
But let me ask you this, yeah? Does the BBC make as many mistakes as GB News or Talk TV? And GB News is getting highlighted consistently again and again by those on the right. And not only that, now you're getting like for example, Caroline Levitt, plugged the BBC, GB News over the BBC as well. Like, do you want them taking the void in space where the BBC provides its where it provides its news and politics? Like, that's a general question I have for you guys. Like, because I don't want that. I do not want, as a news organization that it's not perfect and has its flaws, I do not want it replaced if I'm going to get something worse. And I'm 90% confident that if we lose the BBC, we will have something worse. And for everyone who is saying right now, abolish the BBC, you will not be saying that if something comes in much worse than them. You will not be saying that after it's gone. Yes, the license needs to change, and the way it's paid for needs to change. 100% agree with you all. Yeah, and that's something I'll touch on in a bit. But as an institution, I feel like, yeah, it still has value, and it is still very popular. As I said, as I covered one of the Good Morning shows, I think it was yesterday's Good Morning show, I said, like, more than 70% of the British population, not just English, I think roughly around about the same figure in different nationals as well, England, Wales and Scotland, high percentage of people view and watch the BBC still. So I really think that's a really important point. You know, the reality is, for all those who hate the BBC here in the UK, you are a minority. I know you don't want to be told that, but you're a minority. And if you want to, I hate to put, I want to be, I'm not going to bullshit you guys with the realities. The statistics and the facts say the majority of the British public back the BBC. Despite everything that's going on right now, despite its problems and its flaws, the majority of the public still get behind the BBC. The majority of the public from all nations still watches the BBC. That's just the harsh truth. I know people don't want to hear it, but I'm just going to be honest.
But I think it's terrible for our democracy to get into this sort of flap all the time. You'd have to think very hard before you accepted that the BBC was fake news and that everything Mr. Trump had said was true. When people say BBC needs to change its worldview, what they actually mean is they want the BBC to reflect their own prejudices, whether or not they represent the truth.
And that's exactly what those on the right want. That's what the Times, the Telegraph, the people on the right, those who continue to slander the BBC, that's what they want. That's what they want. And I'm going to bring up something very powerful that will really question some of you, that will really give you guys hopefully second thoughts as well, which involves Russia as well.
I think we owe a great deal to the BBC. It is not perfect. No human institution is at all. But it's certainly the best broadcaster in the world. Now, what are we saying we'd like? Fox News? When I was chairman of the BBC Trust, it was about the same time the BBC was being rubbished for giving so much coverage to those who believed that climate change was a real problem. And the BBC was being criticised for not having enough people talking about the other side, that there wasn't climate change because of human activity.
Yeah, that's because there wasn't any anti-climate scientists. The majority were scientists. The majority were the scientists with the best possible information out there. And they chastised the BBC for giving the context of this.
Where would we be now if they'd done that? If we'd been regarding the arguments about climate change as a hoax, which is, I think, what President Trump has called them. What would we do with Mr. Farage's criticisms? Would we start saying that Brexit had been a fantastic success?
I don't think they would go that far. And I think, we would be kicking, screaming. However, it's also worth pointing out there when he's saying about Brexit there, let's remember how biased the BBC was to the Brexit vote, to the Leave campaign back in 2016. That was a massive fundamental failure there. I think we can all agree that they were much worse there as well. Mrs. Guillaume said the BBC shouldn't have done that to any world leader. End of. 100% agree. 100% agree. They shouldn't have done what they did in that clip. It was a mistake and they apologized to it. However, it's also worth pointing out that panorama video was an old one. It's not like it's been recent as well. It's quite a while ago since it happened. Person impersonator Mark Wilkie, good to see you both. Hope you guys are well. Name me a single media or news organization that gets it right 100% of the time. Like, how often do I get it wrong here on this YouTube channel? I'm not going to BS you guys. I fuck up sometimes. You know, I don't have all the information. Sometimes I'll say something, and then you guys correct me in the chat, and then I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have known that. My apologies. Because you guys know some things that I don't know. You know, and the BBC is not perfect. It's not perfect at all. But yeah, it definitely shot itself in the foot very badly when it came to Brexit.
Something that had actually cost the country billions.
Oh, that's not true, Joe. That's not what polling figures are saying. It's not. I wouldn't say that. I disagree. Like I said yesterday, I looked up the figures. Like, the majority of the British population still view the BBC as a reliable source of information. That's not my words. You guys have Google in front of you. If you don't want to take my word for it, go have a look yourself. Like, that's just a fundamental fact. The BBC isn't... Listen, you're hearing... Look, I really want to make this clear, okay? You're hearing non-stop, ever since this story come out, right? You're hearing non-stop about how terrible and awful the BBC is. Stop and sit back for a second, right? Yeah, don't listen to the echo chamber of everyone telling you the BBC is all this and all that. Go do the research. Generally, go do the research. Okay? Yeah? Don't take the words of people on Twitter, people on the right, and all this saying the BBC has lost the plot, it's done for, it's over. People are jumping the bandwagon here. We're jumping the bandwagon far too quickly on this. Like, it's like, this isn't like the BBC's gonna die because of it. Now, the BBC could get eroded over time, but it's not like it's gonna end like all of a sudden from this lawsuit from Donald Trump. Like, let's be realistic here, okay? I honestly, please be realistic. Like I say, guys, I don't want to bullshit you guys. The reality is the BBC is very popular, like the NHS, with the British public. That's just the reality.
I just repeat, I don't think anybody's complacent about the difficulties of covering this difficult, dangerous world as well as possible. But I don't think that we should allow ourselves to be bullied into thinking that the BBC is only any good if it reflects the prejudice of the last person who shouted at it.
Well, let's have a test of that then, Joe. You think the BBC is not trustworthy in Europe, yeah? Let's have a look at it. How trustworthy is the BBC in Europe? How trustworthy is the BBC News in Europe? Not counting the UK. Let's have a look, and we'll see what sources it comes up with. Not counting the UK. Do we generally believe that the whole of Europe just does not trust the BBC at all? Yeah. Again, Grok is not the most reliable source of information, but it's got quite a few different sources here. Let's just have a quick context. Overall of BBC News trustworthiness. BBC News widely regarded as one of the most reliable and partial global news sources. Particularly, its face of particular biases. In Europe, excluding the UK, where the query focuses, the BBC is generally viewed positively as a foreign broadcaster, often more neutral than by the UK audience due to its historical reputation for independence and its role in providing English language coverage of global events. This stems from the World War II era broadcast and ongoing international service, which many Europeans access via BBC World Service or online platforms. Sources: Media Bias Fact Check. All Sides 2024 editorial review. Ad Fonts Media of 2023. Reuters Institute Digital News Report. These are the sources, by the way, that it's used. Pew Research 2014 updated trends. Ofcom. Well, Ofcom you can't really take too seriously, but a couple of them obviously are not European. It's considered centre, balanced, left centre, middle, neutral is what it's considered. That's what some of the sources are saying there. Just as a point of reference there. Ignore the BBC fact checker. Numbers of the BBC in the UK, I did not look them up, so I don't know. Stopped having a TV 20 years ago, but I do use the BBC website a lot. BBC website has it, like, the BBC website is very helpful. To be honest, says person impersonator. He also says, to be honest, if a major event happens and the BBC doesn't cover it, I tend to be sceptical, i.e. earthquakes, natural disasters. I've not had a TV or watched it live for 18 years. I don't watch the BBC end of. No, that's fine. Yeah, I understand. Not everybody watches BBC News. BBC Scotland definitely can't be relied upon. I know you guys have made that very clear to me. I know you guys have made that quite clear to me. Wonder how many viewers how many viewers fact checked or just believe they see and hear it because it's the BBC. You have to remember that Grok will say consensus without limitations or truth. Yeah, Grok's not always 100%. Like I said, it's not 100% reliable, but its sources, it's the sources that's the key thing there. It's the sources. We need more time to check it until the end stream. No worries, Jow. See what you can find there, because I find it very hard to believe. Find it very hard to believe that an institution like the BBC, you're going to tell me that all European countries think the BBC is the most untrustworthy in the UK when you think of it from the outside perspective. I don't accept that premise. I find it very hard to accept that premise. If you can find me links that says that the majority of European viewers, like French, German, Spanish, not just Portuguese from where you're from, but Italian and whatnot, are saying no, we don't trust the BBC and its reliability as a news source from the UK, then if you generally, that I'd be very hard to be convinced of that. You have to remember we're into politics 24/7 here on this chat. It's not just about what we think. It's about what the average person... You have to think about the average Joe on the street as well. Like, the average Joe on the street. Does the average Joe on the street really think about these things? No, they don't care about politics. You have to take that into consideration when you think about it. I think that's a really important point. It would be interesting if they put a false story, then asked the people, then said it was a test story, and then ask again. That would be a very good thing for the BBC to do. Just now would be an absolutely terrible time to do it, given the situation, that the political climate right now. But that would be a very good test indeed, Duck. Yeah. I don't watch BBC or anything at all, says Jane, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Yeah, I listen. I totally understand people that, like, I don't watch the TV. Like, I've got people mad at me because I don't watch Traitors. That's because I don't have enough time to watch Traitors. You know. I get told off by my family, go and watch Traitors, and I'm like, I don't like, you know. Yeah, it's again, like, yeah, I know, yeah, Mark, yeah, you understand, Mark, because it's like, again, we're thinking from our own political perspectives here. What I'm saying is, take your political biases out, yeah, and put yourself in the shoes of an average person, not just an average British person, but even an average European person, like. Ask yourself, like, here's a good question. If you honestly, generally, Joe, and I mean this respectfully, like, I would like you to go, do me a favor, right? Honestly, next time you're out, ask how many people, generally ask people in Portugal, what is the first media outlet that comes to their mind when they think of Great Britain in Portugal? Just out of curiosity, just ask them straight off the bat, and honestly, tell me what their answer is. What's the first thing that comes to their mind? And I would not be surprised at all if, like, 7, 8 out of 10 of whoever people you ask say the BBC, because the BBC is so known, is such a big institution worldwide. Mainstream media is as reliable as a cassette player. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm trying to, really, really need more time to do it, but I will. Yeah, and hey, do your video about it, Joe, and we can, and honestly, mate, I'd love to have you on the show, on the channel one time, and we can talk about not just this, but all sorts of stuff as well when you're ready as well. Steve McMahon, good morning to you over in New Zealand. A Thursday morning for you. Thank you so much for the $20 New Zealand dollars. The problem for journalists is that one side in any argument will always think that you're biased. That's true. There's going to be a little bit of bias with journalists. It's an impossible job. It's an impossible job for them. It's an impossible. It's never gonna. It's never. You can't win. The thing is, no matter what, you can't win everyone over. Like I have, like at times I really like Sky News' reporting. Then you see like Trevor Phillips on Sky, and I can't stand the guy. You know, James O'Brien is a mixture of things on LBC, but then they have Ian Dale on LBC, and I can't stand the guy. You know, Nick Ferrari is the biggest poison for yeah, I think Rachel Johnson's actually the bigger poison, to be fair. But still, like, you know, you got lots of difference of opinions on LBC as well. So yeah, I totally get that point as well. Thank you, Steve, for that. I really appreciate it. First of the first of 5 super chats, guys. We got 4 more to get today. I really find this conversation really fascinating. I appreciate everyone's I appreciate people's conversation. In Portugal, people were never hostile to the UK, and they are still not. I don't mean it from a hostile point of view. I just want to know generally what they think. Like, what's the first media that comes to their mind? That's just a general question I have. Anyway, we're gonna keep talking. We're gonna keep talking about this anyway. So this next video, guys, I think is I do have the one from. Let me just check. I do have the one from. Oh, I don't have it, do I? 1 second. I need to find that clip. Where is the one? There's a clip, a really important clip from the news agents, and I don't think I've got it here. I need to find it because he mentions Russia. And that's really, really, really important. You guys need to know. Where is it? Go to media. Don't set it up the way I think you're going to set it up. No, that's no good. Where is the video? This is it. There we go. This is it. Yeah. Let me just add that to the BBC. Right, let me show you the clip. So, John Swallows points out that Donald Trump, Nigel Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg are in the same boat as the Russian embassy over the BBC. This is very concerning.
This reputational piece of it, which I think is so fascinating. I kind of noticed on X this morning a tweet from none other than the Russian embassy, where they are saying, let me just read it to you. BBC journalists manipulate facts and censor information that does not align with their partisan editorial stance. Ideological dogma has replaced journalistic ethics here. Well, frankly, irony is dead when you get the Russian embassy lecturing you on journalistic ethics, having shut down more or less every free newspaper. But how weird that we now find the Russian embassy in the same place as Donald Trump, as Nigel Farage, as Jacob Rees-Mogg, as some senior Tories who are calling for the BBC to, be almost defenestrated as a result of this. What an unusual bunch of bedfellows they are. And I think it speaks to the BBC. Fearless journalism is what terrifies politicians, and they must not be cowed. Well,
I just feel, just let that sink in, guys. Just let that sink in, regardless of how you feel about the BBC. Just let that sink in for a second, right? You've got the Conservatives, Reform Russia. You've got Donald Trump. You've got Nigel Farage. You've got Jacob Rees-Mogg. You've got all these right wings. You've got GB News. You've got Talk TV. And alongside the Russian fucking embassy lecturing everyone about the BBC here. Yeah? Just let that sink in. The Russian embassy. What does that tell you? Like, if that does not open your eyes a little bit about what's going on here, I don't know what else will. I think that's a massive siren there. The fact that they're all on the same page about the BBC. Okay? I think that's really important for people to stress. The Russian embassy getting involved in this. Yeah? And John's Sofil there couldn't have pointed it out more obvious here. These Russians, the same fucking Russians who have gone to war. It's not a special military operation as they tell it. No, it's fucking war they've done. Yeah? Have silenced every single media outlet, every single journalist in Russia who give journalism to a degree. They've all been silenced. Any media outlet that tried to give impartiality, silenced. Anyone that tried to speak out, disappeared like that. Anyone who refused to go into the force, disappeared. And they have the audacity to tell us that the BBC has problems. Thought that was really, really important to share with you guys. Anyways, here's the next one here from here. The BBC belongs to Britain, not Trump, Farage, or the cheerleaders at GB News. Keir Starmer needs to stand up to Trump and defend our BBC to keep it strong and truly independent. Look, again, like this is I'm very like I don't know what's I haven't heard Zach Polanski's direct. I haven't actually heard Zach Polanski in the Green Party's position on this on the BBC. Maybe it's because I haven't checked these tweets, but look. I will give kudos. I've got to give kudos to the Liberal Democrats on this because they're making their position very firm and very strong here that they stand by the BBC. And bravo to Ed Davey and their party for doing so because right now the BBC is getting their ass kicked, and the government is kind of towing a line. We'll get to Ed Davey's questions from Prime Minister's questions on it as well.
We've had Jacob Rees-Mogg saying Trump is entitled to do this and justified in doing this. Farage has pretty well come out and said...
Well, the GB News presenters, as far as I can see, isn't it interesting that GB News seems to be getting behind this fight? You know, Robbie Gibb came from GB News, let's remember, and now you have Nigel Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg on the payroll of GB News attacking the BBC and supporting Donald Trump. Well, I think British people, true to British values, who love the BBC, one of our few institutions which supports and defends British values and is protecting us, frankly, against a Trump-style takeover of our country. I think people will now see those people for who they are. They're not true patriots, in my view.
What should Keir Starmer do?
We should ring the White House and tell them to remove that letter, for number one.
He won't do that. He won't do that because you don't want to upset the orange one. And again, if I'm in the shoes of Keir Starmer and the Labour government in regards to this, I understand from a political point of view of why you would not want to upset the orange tangerine, because the last thing you want is Donald Trump imposing one of his insane bloody tariffs and causing chaos, especially to the budget, to your plans, and giving the right-wing media, especially Reform Russia, meat to fuel their fans as well. Like, you don't want to give that. So and here's the thing: is at the same time, here I am saying we do need to protect the BBC, but at the same time, we can't upset the orange one because the orange one is it's an insane position. I know. Damon, again, it's good to see you there, my friend. Hope you're doing well.
Then he needs to reform the BBC, working with the BBC as a critical friend to make sure it remains the strong, wonderful, high-quality journalism that we've come to know and love.
Well, obviously, my friends in Scotland will disagree with BBC Scotland in particular, but we all agree that the BBC needs reform. It does need reform. The licence fee needs to scrap. I generally believe the BBC should become a subscription option. I think that's the best solution rather than the license option. Obviously, that means it will get less income and it may have to dumb down a little bit. But I think the system needs to change, because the one thing that, although it is still very popular with the British public as a whole, one thing that many people cannot stand, including myself and many of you in the chat, is it's not right that people should pay for a BBC license but not use the BBC. It's literally a tax on people for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It's a form of tax. It's a TV tax on a TV that you don't, on a TV program, respectfully, that you do not watch. And that's not right. So that needs to change. And my honest opinion is, I don't know what's taking so long to make a decision about this. And I would hope that whoever comes in makes a conscious decision to change that.
If you've got a combination of Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump denouncing the BBC, there must be something quite good about it. And I think that the one salvation of the BBC will be that as we kind of gain a little bit more perspective, people will recognize that it is actually the most trusted and impartial broadcasting institution in the world. Tim Davie, whom I confess is a good friend and who I think is, I'm really sad that he's felt he had to go under all the psychological and professional pressures, that he is the one person who would have been there to drive the BBC towards an outcome which would suit broadcasting and suit the public. And I think the BBC is the weaker for as long as it can't find an adequate replacement for him.
Well, that will be a good question, whether or not it'll be able to as well.
If you've got a combination of Netanyahu...
So here's Donny on what he said about the BBC here. Trump on why he wants to sue the BBC. They actually changed my January the 6th speech. Not true. Which was a beautiful speech. Was not beautiful, by the way. Which was a very calming speech. Didn't feel calming when I listened to it. And made it sound radical. No, you made it radical. Brackets, this is a lie. Trump stoked up the crowd before the attack on the Capitol.
Are you going ahead and suing the BBC?
Well, I guess I have to. You know, why not? Because...
Why not? Well, maybe because you actually might not win the case. Generally, guys, they would not actually win the case. Most lawyers have said, and I've listened to a little bit for a few perspectives here. Most lawyers have said they would not win. Trump would not win this case.
They defrauded the public, and they've admitted it. And their top echelon,
Director General and the CEO,
this
both
is
resigned.
within one of our great allies. You know, this is supposedly our great ally, BBC. The government has a chunk of that one, I guess, but that's a pretty sad event. They actually changed my January 6th speech, which was
It was literally a slight edit. They didn't change the speech. The context is still the same.
Beautiful speech, which was a very calming speech, and they made it sound radical, and they actually changed it. What they did was rather incredible. They're showing me the results later on, the results of what they did, how they butchered it up, but it was very dishonest, and the head man quit, and a lot of the other people quit.
I fucking hate that man. This is Nigel Farage wanting to destroy the BBC, remember? If you value the drama, entertainment, music, television, radio and content, never vote reform.
And the idea that we should all be paying £181 a year, which is the new proposal, no, that's for the birds. This current subscription model is completely outdated. It has to go.
That's one thing that I'm sure we all agree on with Nigel, but we don't want to be agreeing with you on something like that, but I digress.
Let's have a slimmed-down BBC doing a very basic job and doing it well. And if it can't do that, it will have to go altogether.
Well, I was going to ask you, many people will say, Nigel, that, you know, reform, what is it, 151 polls, you're in the lead, you know, you're going to be fast-tracked to number 10. If that didn't happen, if that change failed to materialise, is there a point in the future where you would make a decision as Prime Minister of this country to defund the BBC?
Well, I mean, I'm going to defund the BBC from its current model, be in no doubt about that. Be in no doubt about that. You know, the BBC, under our plans, would be slimmed down to something very relatively small, but most of it would move to a subscription model to compete in the open market. You know, do I want it to have a basic role for news and current affairs? Yes, but it's going to have to be very, very different to the way it is now.
Yeah, privatise one, controlled by a mogul so that they can dictate the kind of news that they want you to hear. That's the kind of BBC that Nigel Farage wants. Like GB News, where they can control it to a certain extent. That's what Nigel Farage wants. If he becomes Prime Minister, he will destroy the BBC. and he will replace it with right-wingers, and you will have a GB News version inside the British Broadcasting Corporation. And you'll hate the BBC even more. And he wants to slim it all down and everything. Literally, because remember, the BBC is a state broadcaster as well. And if it, he can't say, he knows it's popular, but he can't say it. He wants to privatise the whole bloody thing. Either he doesn't want any state money going towards it. Any state money going towards it. You can't trust Nigel Farage. Just want to point out the hypocrisy of Lisa Andy here. While she stands up here for the BBC, it's worth reminding here that, she'll stand up for one thing, but she won't stand up for another here.
At a time when the lines are being dangerously blurred between fact and opinion, news and polemic, the BBC stands apart. It is a light on the hill for people here and across the world. It was a decision taken not on the grounds that he suggests, which was the risk posed by Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. It was a decision taken in no small part because of the risk posed to them because they support an Israeli team and because they are Jewish.
Which is fucking bullshit. And we know that's bullshit. That's the Israelis paying her under the table. Can we slim down reform Russia, says Person Impersonator. I would rather just fire Nigel Farage out of a cannon and be done with it. Not kill him, just fire him out of a cannon to Moscow and not allow him back in. The greatest fake news email in that was in the world has ever seen. That's what people say. Let's have a slim down monarchy while we're at it. Yeah, I've got no problem cutting down the monarchy. They take more money than us than the British Broadcasting Corporation, I would say. Westminster's Culture Secretary needs to sign it off before broadcasting. Well, it was originally under imposed war laws there as well. I generally think, just imagine if the Murdoch inquiry was implemented as well. Imagine if that was implemented and how much our broadcasters' views would be different as well. So here is Ed Davey asking the questions that Prime Minister's questions for those who didn't watch it here. I thought it was quite interesting. Listen carefully to the answers and the questions that are given her here. I think it's quite interesting as we're on this subject.
British institution is under attack from a foreign government. President Trump is trying to destroy our BBC, not because he cares about the truth, but because he doesn't want to get away with his lies. Trump has undermined press freedom in America. Now he's trying to do the same here, disgracefully egged on by the leader of reform. So will the Prime Minister tell President Trump to drop his demand for $1 billion settlement from the BBC? And will he guarantee that President Trump will not get a single penny from British licence fee payers?
Yeah. Let me be clear. I believe in a strong and independent BBC. Some would rather the BBC didn't exist. Some of them are sitting up there. I'm not one of them. In an age of disinformation, the argument for impartial British news service is stronger than ever. And where mistakes are made, they do need to get their house in order, and the BBC must uphold the highest standards, be accountable and correct errors quickly. But I will always stand up for a strong, independent BBC.
And you notice there, while he says he stands up for the BBC, he doesn't say anything about about Trump potentially suing. He doesn't say anything about Trump whatsoever. And the reason is because we don't know if he's going to actually sue them or not. But if they do, if he does, the question is, what do the Labour government do? Because I don't, the thing is that, are they going to do a 360 and completely turn on the BBC? I don't think they would do that. I honestly don't think they'd do that, because the BBC, like I said, the BBC is still very popular with the British public. He's not going to attack Donald Trump even if he sues him. So they're going to have to figure out a line there.
is right that the BBC's independence and impartiality are absolutely crucial. That's why we must stop President Trump from undermining them. But President Trump's not the only one, Mr. Speaker. The last government spent years undermining the BBC's independence and impartiality. They put 2 Conservative cronies on the BBC board. One has had to resign, the other's still there, but he's been repeatedly accused of interfering in editorial decisions and staff appointments. Robbie Gibbs should have no role in appointing the next Director General. And given the Royal Charter gives the government the power to remove him, will the Prime Minister sack him now?
Mr. Speaker, I certainly agree with the comment that the last government undermined the work of the BBC. They undermined pretty well everything they did in 14 years. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to go into the individual runnings of the BBC. I'm a strong supporter of the BBC in the terms I've already set out.
Yeah, but you wouldn't remove him. And the thing is that here's the weird thing, guys, right? If he does that, if the Labour government removed him, right? Let's say they did, right? If they removed Gibb from his post, right? It would scream hypocrisy from the right wing, saying, "Look, here they're going to put their own stooge in. They're taking out somebody there. They're going to put their own stooge in." That's what they're going to scream. They're going to scream hypocrisy, the right wing and whatnot. But you know what? If they did do that, if Labour did do that, I would say fuck the media, fuck the right-wing media, and fuck them screaming about it, because right now it's not in good hands. It's not in good hands. I think Keir Starmer will do the right. I think that Keir Starmer should oust him. I think he should, but I don't think he will. I don't think he will. Do you think he should? Let me know in the comments if you guys think he should. Daily newspapers realise to decide who really is in control. They are not the only outfit that he strongly supports. Interesting point here about Robert Gill being appointed here, and an interesting perspective here from Alistair Campbell here from the rest of this politics here.
Then I think the BBC has lost its confidence. I think it panders to those who seek to destroy it. And I'm afraid I think that's what this is about. I think that this is going to lead to questions about the governance of the BBC. And let's just focus on one of the key characters here, Roy, Robbie Gibb. Robbie Gibb, and I wonder whether you had anything to do with Robbie Gibb when he was Director of Communications to Theresa May. He's on the board, and to my mind, and he's appointed as one of what's called the national appointees. He's there for England. And these appointments, so the appointment of the chairman, Samir Shah, and these national appointments, they're made by government. And then the other appointments to the board are made by and from within the BBC. And Robbie Gibb being there is honestly like, so Theresa May was Prime Minister, he was her Director of Communications. He's got a long track record of being a very, very active political figure in all sorts of areas, including Gaza and Israel through his senior role at the Jewish Chronicle. And he's there. It is as though he's appointed under Boris Johnson. It is as though when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, I was appointed. Now, can you imagine what the outcry would have been on these papers you've mentioned, The Telegraph, The Mail, The Sun, The Express? They would have gone completely berserk.
If Alistair Campbell had been put on the board of the BBC. And that may be why, sadly, we may not see you as the new Director General.
I think I'd frankly do a better job than some of the names that are in the frame, but you're absolutely right. It is not...
The key 3 words, right? The key 3 words is conflict of interest. How can the BBC be impartial if you put Alistair Campbell on there? It wouldn't be impartial. How could it be impartial when you've got Robbie Gibbs on there, given his track record there? It's not. It's conflict of interest. End of this. Like, it's conflict of interest. I've said, like, you cannot. Like, I remember when they made the appointment. I remember Boris Johnson making the appointment, and I was livid because this fucker Boris Johnson knew exactly what he was doing by putting him in there. And I remember after the narratives that you are hearing, especially from Laura fucking Queensberg, who I cannot stand. I cannot stand that woman. At least Victoria Derbyshire, is one of the... Victoria Derbyshire at least keeps her head on as a journalist there. Credit to her. But, my God, I can't stand Laura Queensberg. But, the appointments... I feel like the appointments of the BBC, they can't be from the government. They can't be from the government. They need to be... and I don't think it's enough from those within. I think it needs to be from an independent body. An independent body needs to make the decision. And one thing I think even Nigel Farage suggested this idea. I don't know if I can't remember where he said it, but people said this. He suggested that everyone from different different politicians from different political parties should have a meeting and make the decision itself. So what he was referring to, and I know this is coming from Nigel Farage, weird, right? So I don't have the tweet. I can't remember where it was. I know it was him, but what he was suggesting was like a political committee of Labour, Conservatives, Lib Dem, Reform, Green Party, and maybe one or two independents, right? All making the decision of who should be the next chair. Which I can't see that. It would be a far more interesting conversation if you had people from different perspectives there. But I don't know how well that would work. But I just feel like the appointment cannot be made by the Prime Minister. It just can't be made by the Prime Minister. They need to change the way that the BBC appoints its chairmen. The political scale has shifted that much to the right has gone from left-wing to centrist in a decade, says Who's Popping. Good to see you there, Who's Popping. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it has shifted very much, over the last several... And there. Don't forget, Sky wanted to buy ITV as well, so Murdoch needed the Ombudsman on their side. Oh, yeah, I remember that. There's actually a story the ITV is looking to getting sold quite soon as well. Bill Silver, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Someone should tell Farage fan club that allowing a deranged American dictator to decide what happens to the BBC makes them all look like traitors. Yep, exactly, Bill. Exactly. Yeah.
Going to happen, but I think that look, as you know, I've had my criticisms of the BBC. I had a fight with the BBC over 20 years ago, which led not just the Director General going, but also the chairman. And look, this in a sense, there are various ways of looking at this story. One of them, to which I subscribe in part, is that there has been a right-wing, very organised, very well-funded attempt to undermine the BBC. Because if you are a Trump, if you are a Farage, you don't want a media organisation that properly holds people to account. You want a fanzine.
He's absolutely right, and that message has been made so many times. We've made that message so many times here, and this really needs to be called out. Like the message I have to the people who want to see those within the BBC who are dismantling it. Those who want to see the BBC destroyed, those on the right, they just want to control the narratives of the nation. They want to control the narratives of the nation, and it's really, really scary. Man, I didn't think here we go as long as we did on it, but there we go. Just before we carry on, I just want to say, because we've gone about an hour already, thank you guys all for coming along, much appreciated. We're going to be looking in the Epstein Files in just a moment, but just a reminder, if you haven't already, please hit that like button, shares across social media, subscribe if you haven't already. A reminder that tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock, guys, I'll be going live with another episode of the Roundtable. It'll be myself, Dave McGuinness, Daily Blase, and Power to the People's Graham Price. We're certainly going to talk about the BBC. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Epstein Files. I'm sure we're going to talk about Labour and all sorts of things. So do join us tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for that, guys. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be a fascinating conversation between the four of us. And also next month in December, myself, Wichigoff, and Jenny Random Scottish History for the next roundtable. I still have one more guest to get appointed for that, but I hope you can join us for next month's one as well. So I did have this from Prime Minister's questions as well. Kind of carrying on here on Nigel Farage, before we go to the Epstein Files, I just wanted to share this clip from Prime Minister's questions for those who didn't see it. Nigel Farage refused to condemn a reform councillor who described children in care as downright evil. Okay, this kind of language from Reform Russia, people they want to normalize this kind of language. Normal, and I do mean this seriously in the term normalize, and it's just so vile and disgusting. And you can, and by the way, Nigel Farage spoke at Prime Minister's questions for those who don't know. And when Nigel Farage tweeted out that he spoke, he made it very clear to edit his clip so that he didn't show what Keir Starmer said before and after when he spoke. And you can guess why.
A Reform councillor has disgracefully described children in care as downright evil. Will the Prime Minister... He said it. Will the Prime Minister, and I hope the whole House, join me in condemning Reform's vile rhetoric, and will he reassure us that this Labour government will continue to support the protections and opportunities for all our care leavers?
Remember, a Reform councillor described children in care as downright evil, yeah? Remember that.
Well, Mr. Speaker, November marks the first ever Care Leavers Month. And that is a time to recognise that every child deserves support to achieve their potential. And through our landmark Children's Wellbeing Bill, we're requiring every local authority to help care leavers find secure accommodation. It saddens me that the parties opposite voted against it. The comments about children in care being evil are utterly appalling. And now the member for Clacton has heard them. I'm sure he'll want to condemn them right now.
Nigel Farage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, I've only got 30 seconds. The Prime Minister.
Oh, he's only got 30 seconds, guys. Oh, what a shame. He's got 30 seconds. He's only got 30 seconds, guys. He's got no time to respond to the comment. Oh, 30 seconds is just not enough time for Nigel. Thank you, Alison, for the £2 super chat, for the DPR for Ollie. Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. Just 3 more super chats for tonight's goal. Thank you so much for your support. No worries, Jal. Appreciate it. When you get there, don't rush. You got plenty of time, my friend. Appreciate it.
The Prime Minister has stated very clearly that he wants to close the migrant hotels by the end of this Parliament. Well, the Reform-led West Northamptonshire Council, brilliantly led council, will be issuing foreclosure notices on 3 migrant hotels within the next few days in response to grave public concern about the safety of women and girls on the streets of West Northamptonshire.
By the way, that's nothing to do with you. That is all the Home Office.
Would the Prime Minister approve of us speeding up the closure of the migrant hotels? Yeah.
That's nothing. Those ones he spoke of has nothing to do with Reform Russia and the work they're doing. Nothing at all. Okay, that is the Home Office's work.
Mr. Speaker, we will grit the mesh we inherited and close every hotel. At their peak, under the previous government, there were 400 hotels. Now there are only 200 remaining. But he says he doesn't have time to condemn the comments calling children in care evil. He's also not had the time, it appears, to condemn the racist comments of his own MP. Utterly spineless.
I'm glad he called him spineless. Yeah. His MPs are, even racist as well. Just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But yeah, just to remind us of just how vile they are. So, let's go to America, guys. The Epstein Files. It's all the talk again. Why is it all the talk? Well, there's been some new documents have come out. But before we touch...
He's calling it the Schumer shut.
But before we touch on that, I want to share this this very fascinating tweet here. But before I do, I can't, because two very lovely people have given me very generous super chats. Mutty Von Erich with a generous £2 super chat. Good to see you, Mutty. Hope you are doing well. And then there were two, he said. Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. Mr. E, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. I do apologise if I'm a little harsh. I'm too old. You have absolutely no reason to apologise at all, Mr. E. I appreciate your words. I appreciate your chat. Even if we have, I have they are not always, like myself and Dave McGuinness, we disagree on things. And I will not always agree with everybody, in chat on things as well. So you don't need to apologise for a indifference of comments whatsoever. I think it's good to not always be on the same page of everything. So I appreciate it, and as long as we're all respectful to each other, it's totally fine, which we have been, and I appreciate it. So no, you do not need to apologise for being harsh. I much appreciate it. Steve, thank you so much for another 20 New Zealand dollars, helping us reach today's super chat goal. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you, my friend. I appreciate that. And Alistair Keir with another £2 super chat saying, Trump talks, it's all fake news. It is all fake news. Thank you so much, Alistair Keir, as well. Thank you for everyone who sent super chats tonight. I really appreciate it. Very generous. Yeah, we did get the confetti. We did, Stephen Banker. We did. Okay, guys, let's carry on, because I want to get through some of the Epstein File talk before we wrap up. I do have a funny video to see ourselves out later on as well, actually, which I think is important. So I thought this was quite fascinating here. So Thomas Massey, this is obviously a while ago, talks about how the situation is happening all because Trump and his administration are trying to keep the Epstein Files from being released, because when they finally swear in Alienia Granilia, that's the last vote needed to get them released. The truth will come out. It's quite fascinating.
He's calling it the Schumer shutdown, but I'm calling it the Epstein recess. He's not only are we shut down, we're in recess, and that's unconventional, unprecedented in the 13 years I've been in Congress. The other thing that Speaker Johnson established a precedent on himself. Until Speaker Johnson had been Speaker, I never had observed this, but he swore in two members during a pro forma session. They happened to be Republicans, and now he's has no real good reason for why he's not swearing in the Democrat during a pro forma session. Okay, to the Epstein thing. One of my favorite memes on the internet, well, before I get there, let me set it up. The president himself has called the Epstein Files a hoax. And we know it's not a hoax. My press conference with Ro Khanna involved almost a dozen survivors of Epstein's sex trafficking ring. And they were there to tell us there are other men who they were trafficked to. And they've together, collectively, they know what some of those names are. In fact, through their lawyer has informed me there are at least 20 names, and he described their professions, which I said to the FBI director, Kash Patel, when he was there. But getting back to one of my favorite memes on the internet was, it's too bad Epstein killed himself before he realized this was a hoax.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a hoax, why are they resisting releasing the files?
It's a hoax. Okay, then show us the info. But it's a hoax. Well, then show us the information. But it's a hoax, guys. It's a hoax. Family, it's all a hoax. The Ducks are in good spirits today, says Steve. Oh, that's good to know. We are that's very good, very important information that the Ducks are in good spirits today. That is very, very important. Very, very important indeed here.
Documents.
This is an interesting one here. Epstein survivor, Virginia governor's brother told me he had a message to Republicans blocking the Epstein file and every American. This clip kind of blanks out and clips into other bits, so I will need to push forward a little bit. But I wanted to share some of this because I think it's quite really important here as well.
It's time to release all the documents. And bear in mind, guys, these are your politics. Like, the people in these files are your politicians. They are bankers. They are very wealthy and powerful people, and it shouldn't be up to the survivors to have to release that list. It's time for the government to protect the people and stop protecting these rich and powerful men that essentially are trying their very darn best to silence not just us, but the American people.
The American people, yeah. And then for some reason, I don't know why the clip's like this, but it is.
Put into this bill to reopen the government and not to give anybody health care, they put into it this Section 213, which says that any United States senator, not any U.S. citizen, mind you, and not even any lowly member of the House of Representatives, but any senator can receive $500,000 from the taxpayers if the Department of Justice or a grand jury subpoenas their phone bill without giving them personal notice. And then they get an extra $500,000 if DOJ seeks a lawful non-disclosure order from a federal judge to keep the whole thing secret.
Fascinating, isn't it? Why, what, you know? So they're getting a lot of money.
Now they want to hand themselves each $1 million at least. It's $500,000 minimum. They could get more. $500,000 minimum in each of those cases. So, you know, it goes without saying, Joe, we've talked about this before. You know, I'm tight with a number of the police officers who defended our lives on that day. More than 140 officers were violently assaulted, wounded, injured, disfigured, disabled, forced out of their line of work. You know how much money the majority in Congress has given them and their families? A lot of people, you know, they lost, 50% of their income because they had to leave law enforcement because they were so injured. Zero, nothing.
It's time.
People that abuse other people, especially children, are the lowest forms of existence to me, lower than worms. They indeed. So it sounds like to me that politicians are getting bought off here as well, which I find very fascinating.
Alita Grijalva of Arizona, the Democrat, is sworn in later today, 2 months after her election, by the way. She's expected to be the 218th signature needed to force a vote to release all of the Epstein files. Do you think those files should be released?
Well, again, I think James Comer, the Oversight Committee chair, as well as the others who are responsible for these files, have done a very good job handling them methodically and making sure that the victims are protected, that Epstein, of course, was a monster that we know of, and the fact that these files are being released and information is coming out is good for all of us. I mean, we want transparency in our government, and I trust that James Comer, Congressman Jim Jordan, they are the ones that are truly handling this very well in the House of Representatives. Democrats are doing, their job, of course, as the opposition and making sure that information is out there. But again, I think that,
Yeah, they're handling it well. Republicans are handling it well. Okay, tell that to all the fucking victims who have put up with this. Those who have passed on and never been able to get justice. Tell that to the victims. I dare you to tell that to the victims to their face. You won't do it.
it's interesting that they release those files today on the day that the government shutdown is going to end, and that it's a positive for Republicans that we're going to continue funding the government as we planned on, and that the government's going to be open. SNAP benefits are going to start being released back to the American people.
But you're going to make sure the Affordable Care Act comes to an end at the end of the year, which means that those who are on healthcare on the low end of schemes are not going to get any healthcare, and or they're going to pay over the odds, which means that the private, that means a lot of insurance companies, if they're not rich enough, are about to get a hell of a lot richer thanks to the work that you guys are doing. And also, it also means that many, many Americans, as if enough of Americans don't have access to healthcare, now even more are not going to have access to healthcare. That's great news there. Great news. Anyways, back to the Epstein Files.
What's holding some of your colleagues back? What is holding Republicans back from voting to release all the files?
They're complicit in this cover-up.
when Donald Trump, the president, says, I don't want to release the files, or he tried to, remember earlier in this year, he actually even said they kind of discarded them as being even not important. When they're not releasing these files, it brings questions to be asked. And so, again, our commitment has been, from day one has been clear. Release the Epstein files. The men that committed harm should be held accountable today.
Yeah, but will they? Will they?
And any American with common sense sees right through this hoax and clear distraction from the government opening back up again. What's your response to that?
My response is simple.
Oh, I already answered that one. Sorry, it's the same one. Sorry.
Her memoir comes out, obviously, after her death. What will we learn from the book that might have a corollary if and when the files are ever released?
I mean, the book is incredibly graphic. And if the files are released, and they are truly released, and they are unredacted, then you will see the names that are associated with those descriptions. And they're very powerful people. I mean, she was trafficked to incredibly powerful people, as many as 36 men. And I think it would be jaw-dropping for both political parties. And, you know, you can read and you can figure out who these people are. And it's incredible that in her death, she's seeing some justice, but she has to be dead to see this. I mean, it's just so, it's heartbreaking.
Her memoir.
Unfortunately, it's a sad reality that, yeah, not everyone's going to get their justice. I mean, I just don't know. Like, there's a lot of talk about it now, but I still don't know if it's going to get released. With everything that's happening. With everything that's happening here.
Speaker Johnson. Hey, Senator Ben Gallego, I'm standing outside Speaker Johnson's office. I'm actually here to deliver the memoir of Virginia Giuffre. She was sexually exploited, assaulted by Ghislaine Maxwell, by Epstein, and all these powerful men for 3 years. She already had a hard life. They picked on her, and they knew exactly how to exploit her. And it's still happening today. She passed away a couple months ago, and to this date, there are still many, many women that are victims of Epstein and all these powerful men. And this guy, Speaker Johnson, and other Republicans have done everything to protect them. So I'm going to read a passage from her memoir. I hope for a world in which predators are punished, not protected. Victims are treated with compassion, not shamed, and powerful people face the same consequences as anyone else. I yearn, too, for a world in which perpetrators face more shame than their victims do, and where anyone who's been trafficked can confront their abusers when they are ready, no matter how much time has passed. We don't live in this world yet. I mean, seriously, where are those videotapes that FBI confiscated from Epstein's house? And why haven't they led to any prosecutions of any abusers? But I believe we could someday. Imagining is the first step. If this book moves us even an inch closer to a reality like that, if it helps just one person, I will achieve my goal. Well, Virginia, I hope that we are going to be able to achieve your goal. There's going to be a vote coming up pretty soon on the House. That's the first step in that regard. There is something happening. There is some type of cover-up that's happening. And Virginia and for all the other people that have been victimized, we are going to get that information out. Thank you. Here you go. Here you go. There you go. It's a gift from me to Speaker Johnson.
And he's going to throw it in the trash because, you know, he's in on it. He's in on it. Now, coming near the end, but I just want to share one or two of these other things here. Trump administration are not just protecting Trump by withholding Epstein files. Earlier this year, Ron Wall revealed Epstein Treasury files show 4,725 wire transfers. Nearly $1.1 billion, all from a single bank account. Money is rife in this as well, guys.
Last year, the Biden administration allowed our investigators to look at portions of the file. We did that at the Treasury building. Here is what it says. Treasury's Epstein file details, Mr. President, 4,725 wire transfers. Let me repeat that. 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to nearly $1.1 billion flowing in and out of just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts. If you ask me, that is more than 4,000 potential lines of investigation right there. Hundreds of millions more flowed through other accounts. That's even a lot more to investigate. The file shows that Mr. Epstein used multiple Russian banks, which are now under sanctions, to process payments related to sex trafficking.
Russian banks. We didn't think that Russia wasn't a part of this, guys. You didn't think Russia wouldn't be connected. Of course not. So apparently there's going to be a meeting today. I'm going to speed this one up because we are at half past, and I do want to play my funny video again. I want to just play these last couple of clips here. But apparently there's a meeting today at the White House.
Breaking news, CNN has learned there will be a meeting today inside the White House as aides try to manage a potential House vote on the release of the Epstein files. This comes, of course, just hours after Democrats on the Oversight Committee released emails from Jeffrey Epstein himself mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times. I want to get straight to CNN's
Yep. And Donnie did not take it very well, by the way.
Caitlin Polans. Caitlin, what are you learning?
Well, the House is releasing these files, but it's not everything that the federal government has. Dana, there's additional files still held by the Justice Department that some Republicans on Capitol Hill are in support of releasing. And so that is causing a political response inside the White House right now, where there is a meeting planned, or was a meeting planned today, about the House effort to try and force a vote to get the Justice Department, the Trump administration, to release the rest of the FBI files, the Justice Department files, everything from years of the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and others, things that have not seen the light of day yet. What one source tells me, we have multiple sources confirming that this meeting is happening, but what one source tells me is that this meeting was planning to include some key figures from the Justice Department: the FBI Director Kash Patel, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and then one of those Republicans in support of transparency, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado. So what might happen at this meeting, if Boebert could be swayed in a different direction on wanting transparency here, that is all something that is going to be at issue, and that the White House is clearly concerned about, having discussions about it. On top of that, Dana, another thing to remember here is that the Justice Department has tried many different ways to distract from releasing the full Justice Department files. They tried to get grand jury records out there. Blanche talked to Ghislaine Maxwell, a co-conspirator in Florida. When Ghislaine spoke to Todd Blanche, she told him that Trump himself never acted inappropriately, and she never saw anything untoward in any way toward underage girls. Dana?
Yeah.
So how did Caroline Leavitt, how did she take the questions there as well? What do I think is going to come out of that meeting? I don't know, but it's definitely a food for thought, guys. This last clip here, guys. The reason I'm not showing this one is because it's the exact same as this one here. So here's the highlights from Caroline Leavitt's Epstein spin here on questions and answers. How do you think she did, guys?
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
Yeah, President Trump did nothing wrong, despite the fact that he's literally in the Epstein files, that he's literally been pictured, the video next to Jeffrey Epstein, literally pictured next to Jeffrey Epstein. But don't worry, guys, Trump's done nothing wrong. Caroline Leavitt is on the case, guys.
And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep.
Why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. This
Transparency! There's nothing transparent about hiding the Epstein files, girl. There is nothing. There's nothing there. Like, you're just not fooling us. Girl, don't talk about transparency. You guys are tearing down a part of the White House without even planning permission. You guys said you weren't even tearing down the East Wing of the White House. You said, I'm not going to touch anything, it's going to be fine. And then literally you guys started construction work. And she's got the audacity to talk about transparency. Talk about bullshit.
This administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' effort to get these out to the public. This is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. The Democrat.
I can't wait for the Caroline Levitt impersonator to take this on.
Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media.
Why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition?
Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That is.
Yeah, that's definitely transparent. Transparency to try and stop people voting to release the Epstein Files. That's definitely transparency, guys.
That's a defining factor of transparency.
Democratic members of Congress invited Britain's former Prince Andrew to testify on the Epstein scandal. I was just wondering if President Trump thinks former Prince Andrew should indeed come and testify to Congress on that.
I haven't spoken to him about that specific matter, but I can ask him and get back to you.
Yeah, Donald Trump will respond with, Prince who? Prince who? I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that because my brain is all mushy.
If the president is considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
Again, he's answered this repeatedly. It's not something he's talking about or even thinking about at this moment in time.
Yeah, but he's not ruling it out. He's not ruling it out, guys. It's not being ruled out. That should be a cause for concern. The fact that it's not even being ruled out. She's the kind of person that would say, shut up and just look normal. Well, that's what... I noticed she wasn't wearing any necklace there. I wonder why, guys. I remember watching a movie about gangster pimp war. Nothing to do with your video, just saying. Is that... do you know what? Do you know what this whole... it does remind me a bit of one of my favourite films called American Gangster. Where the guy has control... Denzel Washington was the actor. And he had control of everything. And what he was very good at, though, was not being in the spotlight. But eventually he got caught. Great film. One of my favourite films, American Gangster. They are also damaging the presidential command bunker underneath the White House. So if anyone attacks the US... Well, is the bunker right under that East Wing? Do we know that? Like, there may be some other... we might not know. I don't know if it's directly under that. I do believe Trump made a pass at her. The other day, says Bill. She was very cross. Reganelite. She needs to get better at photoshopping her husband, says Alistair. Indeed, guys, indeed. Yeah, we've gone well over time, guys. Just before you guys go, we've got one funny video to see ourselves out. I know you guys haven't seen this funny video yet, but I wanted to share it with you guys anyway, because it's Matt fucking Green, guys. Come on, how could we not share? How could I not share a Matt Green video with you guys? Come on. Come on. It's a new one from Matt Green. He put it out yesterday. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I haven't even seen this one. Even I haven't seen this one. So let's watch this one together here, called Trump Sues Everyone. Oh, surely this is going to go perfectly well.
Following the scandal of the BBC editing a clip of Donald Trump to make it look like he was inciting an insurrection in a more concise way than he actually did, the President of the United States has announced that he's suing everybody in the United Kingdom for $1 trillion. Our toddlers, tantrums and trying it on correspondent Jonathan Goodenough has more. Yes, that's right. Not content with threatening to sue the BBC, the President has gone further than ever before and threatened to sue anybody who's ever watched anything on the BBC, which basically means everybody in this country. Well, except teenagers, they're just on TikTok. They all watched CBeebies. Fair point. So what grounds is he citing? Well, Trump alleges that the British public have been insufficiently nice to him in his presidency and have made jokes about him in public and in private, which he doesn't think should be allowed, right? Further offences include getting a bad spray tan and then comparing yourself to him, painting anything orange and then laughing about it, anyone who's ever used the word Trump to mean fart, even before he was elected, playing golf at a course he doesn't own, using the words Jeffrey and Epstein in the same sentence, and anyone who's ever been involved in fox hunting. Well, that last one's a surprise. We suspect he might think it has something to do with Fox News. Ah, The statement then ends with a threat to everybody in the UK that if they don't immediately apologise, give him all of their money and sign a statement saying he's wonderful, he will impose tariffs on the country to make up the difference. But aren't tariffs basically paid by American consumers? Are you trying to get us into more trouble? Is this not another massive overreach from a deluded man who thinks he's king of the world or something? Well, that's certainly not how I would put it. Why not? Because I don't want to get sued. But just because you get sued doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Just like being impeached doesn't mean you were guilty of anything. Touché. So what's been the government's response? Keir Starmer said that he disagreed with Trump suing everybody, but did offer him another go around Windsor Castle in a golden carriage, if that would help. How about Nigel Farage? Well, he said that the British public have been biased against Donald Trump for too long and should apologise, but stopped short of agreeing that they should pay damages. Because that would include him too? Because that would include him too. So, what happens next? Actually, I'm just hearing that you're being sued by Donald Trump for that king of the world thing you said a minute ago. What? He's also suing everybody who's watching this because they didn't turn off or switch to GB News immediately. Right, well, thank you, Jonathan. I'm not with him. Next up, as Rachel Reeves gives her strongest hint yet that taxes will rise in the budget, we ask, does it actually count as breaking a promise if nobody really believed you in the first place?
Oh, Matt, we love you. Oh, it's been too long. It's been too long since he's done a video. Oh, such a good video. Oh, dear. Such a good video, guys. Ah, dear. Blooming YouTube dropped for me. Right, middle of that says Indie Duck there. No, it's funny. Matt is absolutely brilliant. Marjorie Taylor Greene looks like the love child of a predator and a playmate. I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it, Joe. Sorry. Guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along tonight. Thank you guys for all your comments and your contributions to tonight's live stream. Thank you for those who gave super chats tonight. It's greatly appreciated as well. Very generous super chats from everybody. Thank you, Steve, for your generous 20 New Zealand dollars. Very generous of you. Alston here and Mr. E, and make sure I get everyone's name right because it's really important for me. Mr. E gave one, I know. Matti von Erich as well. Thank you guys all for those super chats. It's really appreciate. Obviously, I just want to say don't feel bad if you can't financially support and whatnot, as long as you just one of the best things to do if you can't financially support me, because I know not everybody can do, but just hitting the like button, sharing across social media, subscribing, checking out other content, all that stuff really does help support me on this platform, guys. It's really just those simple things. But just again, a final reminder, I'll be back live tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for another Good Morning show before Dave McGuinness, after Dave McGuinness goes live at 10:30, so join me for that as well. And then again at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, myself, Dave McGuinness, Graham Price's Power to the People, and Daily Blase will come together for a roundtable discussion. I'm sure we're going to touch on all the subjects we're going to touch on tonight, and plus more stuff there. So do join us for that. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are too. But again, like I said, like, share, subscribe. I've done all that stuff. I've always said all that stuff already, but do check out Rumble and Patreon as well. I do exclusive content on those platforms. There's both free content to see on both Patreon and on Rumble, so do check them out as well. And we also have a free Discord community, and you can follow me on social media. All the links are in the links tree down below as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.